Good evening, and I hope you've had a good week this week. September sees a lot of changes, with children either having already gone back to school this week or going back to school next week. I do hope all the arrangements for our local schools go well and that all the children can get back to catching up with their education soon. Schools are a very important part of our community, especially important to me as I'm a local chair of governors. I know things will be difficult in the weeks ahead, particularly for parents. And so I would ask that parents look at the school arrangements, which might be a little different and a little bit difficult for some, and do cooperate with the schools with access to schools, dropping off and picking up, and all the things that the schools ask you to do. Do appreciate that the schools are trying to operate under very difficult conditions in difficult times and are trying to keep everyone as safe as possible. That's the teachers, the other staff, and of course the children and their families. So we wish them all well with a particularly difficult time, especially against the background that the last week or so we've seen the increased level on the coronavirus statistics, and of course with the approaching winter flu season as well. Similarly, things are opening up and coronavirus restrictions being lifted with the church itself. And the good news is for the church is we're now able to start to move back to something which looks like normal church. Something that we were used to before March last year. So this Sunday, the service will be at 9:15, so that's a new time. And this is a combined service, so this is the service in church and live streamed at the same time. But it will, of course, for those that have joined us on the live stream since March, look a bit different than the live stream that you've been used to. It won't have lots of different people joining from lots of different locations and being patched together by me here in the studio at home. It'll look a bit like a normal church service with one picture on screen. Of course, if you're able to, we'd like to welcome you back into the church itself. And that's what we're trying to do now, to move back to the church itself. But of course, if you're not able, you're unwell, or you feel vulnerable, you will be very welcome to continue to join us on the live stream each Sunday morning. I would say that the live stream solution we're using from this Sunday for about the next 4 or 5 weeks is a temporary solution. And we don't know how reliable it's going to be. So if unfortunately things don't work out or we lose you during the service, we will be videoing the service and we will put it out at 6 o'clock on Sunday evening if anything goes wrong in the morning. Tuesday evenings there will be a service in All Saints at 5 p.m, an evening service for the winter months, and on Wednesdays we will continue with our 10:30 a.m. Communion. Now we hope to maintain this pattern through to the end of November, when government may change the advice again and things become more clearer as to what we can do in the future. And then we will of course review everything and hopefully we'll be able to get back to a standard pattern that we can keep to for the future. St Edmund's Church will reopen and have its first service on Sunday the 11th of October at 11 a.m. The other change is there will now be a collection plate in church by the door for people to place their offerings in. We haven't been able to take cash until now. As I know, lots of our regular members have told me they're saving up their weekly collections at home, ready for the time that they can come back to church and put the collections in the plate. So we're very grateful to all of those people who've been saving up, and we look forward to them being able to give their collections when they next come to church. And obviously we are very thankful for any contributions at this time, because it's been a very difficult time for the church as well as business and people at home. So, turning back to Livestream, I don't know if anybody noticed it, but we did a short test yesterday evening of the Livestream to show you a bit what it would look like. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rerun that short video now so you can see basically what you might expect from tomorrow morning.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Wyke Parish Church here in the beautiful Church of All Saints, Wyke Regis. We want to really warmly invite you back to church this Sunday at our 9:15 Sun Eucharist service. We're looking forward to having people back in the building. We've got space for up to 50 of you to come and worship with us. Now we are taking all the precautions we can, but we will have a choir for singing for us, and we will also make sure that some of the restrictions have been lifted so that you can come back. So bring your face mask, bring yourself, bring your heart, and come and join me this Sunday at 9:15 a.m. to come and worship Christ with me. May God bless you, and I look forward to seeing you on Sunday.
So there we go. That's a bit of what services will look like for the next few weeks. So yes, there'll be an organ in church. Yes, we will have a socially distanced choir. And I would say the sound will be improved from what it was last night because we didn't set up all the microphones that we will have set up for Sunday. So hopefully that will work. And we look forward to those that are unable to join us in church joining us via the live stream at 9:15. So in the local news this week, we spoke last week about the new Nisa shop in Wyke Regis that taken over from the Co-op, and I popped into the shop this week, and it looks to be a nice shop, well stocked and well laid out, and it was very good to see familiar faces with some of the previous Co-op staff there working in the shop and serving me. On a less positive note this week, we've heard that local shops in Weymouth continue to struggle. And this week there's been news that All Sorts Gifts and Darts in St Thomas Street, run by Michelle Roberts and her family, is closing. This comes just a short while after announcements that Ladybirds, a family-run ladies' clothing shop which was first established by husband and wife Michael and Roma Pye in 1966, is also closing. And we know that big companies such as Debenhams and Marks and Spencers are also struggling as well. It's a really difficult time for our local shops, big and small, after some of the shops have been shut for months due to coronavirus, and now they've reopened. The trade is very slow, with more and more people buying things online. I'm sure I don't need to say that if we don't use and support our local shops, we will only see more of them close, and it'll be no good at any of us moaning about it when that happens, because it'll be too late. Now for something completely different. Did you know that 400 years ago, on the 6th of September 1620, so that's 400 years ago tomorrow, that 102 English Puritans, known as the Pilgrims, set sail aboard the Mayflower from Plymouth. for a new life in America. After a perilous journey, they landed in what is now Provincetown Harbour, Cape Cod, Massachusetts, on the 11th of November, 1620. They had intended landing in Virginia, but were unable to reach it because of heavy seas. Let's remind ourselves now about what happened 400 years ago, starting tomorrow. If we find it difficult to cross the Atlantic just now, it was even worse 400 years ago this month. On the 6th of September 1620, 102 determined Puritans climbed on board the Mayflower and set sail from Plymouth. They had 30 crew to steer them across 3,000 miles of open, perilous ocean. Those Puritans, or Pilgrim Fathers, could never have dreamed that their journey would become one of the most influential in world history. Their courage and purpose for the voyage would help shape the very history and culture of the USA. The Pilgrim Fathers themselves were in search of religious freedom and a new life. Years before, they had rejected the Church of England due to its Roman Catholic past, and in 1608 they had moved to Holland, where they could worship freely. But life was very hard there, and so the New World beckoned to them. They had originally intended to use 2 ships, but the Speedwell sprang a leak shortly after sailing, and so they crowded as many as possible into the Mayflower. After a long and difficult 10 weeks at sea, they reached America, but could not reach their intended destination of Virginia because of heavy seas. They finally landed in Provincetown Harbour, Cape Cod, Massachusetts, on the 11th of November. That presented the next great challenge, the bitter, harsh winter of Massachusetts. Half of the Pilgrims perished that first winter of hunger and cold. Without the help of the local indigenous peoples to teach them food gathering and other survival skills, all of the colony would have probably perished in that first winter. After months of hard work, by the fall of 1621, the tiny colony had its first harvest. They celebrated this great achievement with their new indigenous friends. It became Thanksgiving. The Pilgrims had been convinced that God wanted them to go to the New World. They wrote, "We verily believe and trust the Lord is with us, and that he will graciously prosper our endeavours according to the simplicity of our hearts therein." Of course, the Mayflower was one of the earliest pilgrim vessels, and so became a cultural icon in the history of the United States of America. This year, until the coronavirus put a stop to things, many celebrations were planned in the USA, England, and in the Netherlands. Unfortunately, they've not been able to happen, but maybe, who knows, they will in future. So there we go. That's a bit about the Mayflower, which set sail 400 years ago tomorrow. And now for a good news story. Again linked to coronavirus, but it is a good news story. Like many other attractions and local services, our local theatre, the Pavilion, has been really badly affected by coronavirus pandemic, being unable to operate for months. However, the good news is things are changing and more is happening at the Pavilion. We're really lucky still to have the Pavilion. Viewers may remember it used to be run by the local authority, and several years ago now they decided to shut it and withdraw the funding. And a local community interest company run by somebody called Phil Say, with the help of many friends and volunteers, was set up. Ever since, I think they've done a fantastic job of bringing a range of musical performances, comedians, other shows and stars to Weymouth. In fact, some might argue it's actually better than it was before. Despite the difficult times, they remain very positive and focused on the future. Janet has been looking at what is happening at the Pavilion and what the future in the months ahead holds.
Hello everyone. Do you remember Gary doing a feature on the Pavilion Theatre some weeks ago? It is wonderful for Weymouth to have such a lovely theatre. So one of the things which saddened me during lockdown was to see it sitting closed and abandoned. Recently, there have been reports that it is opening up again, so I went to see director Phil Say to find out what was going on.
So yes, my name's Phil Say. I'm one of the directors at Weymouth Pavilion. Just to let you know that we are now open. We're open as far as a cafe and food is concerned and a restaurant. But also we're now going to be open as far as the theatre is concerned. We've done a couple of socially distanced performances so far during August, and in September, October and November we're going to do more, but comedy nights and also some dance nights. I have hopefully got Kevin Clifton from Strictly Come Dancing and his partner coming to do a socially distanced performance early in November. More details to follow, and perhaps even a couple of nights of that. But we're looking at doing some socially distanced music, so Rat Pack and things like that, as well as comedy. So a few different genres and a few different shows, but the big news is that we are going to be open for Christmas pantomime. So Aladdin will take place as planned over Christmas, perhaps even with a few more shows. A lot of other nearby venues in Bournemouth and Poole have closed for Christmas, and in Torquay and in Bristol and in Salisbury. And so what we're hoping is maybe we can pick up some of these audiences and some of these people who would like to come and see a fantastic Christmas pantomime.
What good news that is. But I know you'll be concerned about safety. So I asked Phil to tell us more about the special measures they had taken to keep us safe during this difficult time.
Unfortunately, as it stands at the moment, the patrons and the audience will be wearing face masks. We'll have them socially distanced in household groups, which means that you won't have to pass another group to get out to the aisle. Temperature checks will be taken on the way into the auditorium, and we have extra cleaners on duty to make sure that surfaces are wiped clean and everything is as safe as it possibly can be. So when you're sat in the auditorium, the show will take a similar format to normal, but there'll be a one-way system in operation. So you'll come in at the back of the stalls as an example, and then leave by the side fire exit if you need to go to the toilet or if you need to go back to the bar or anything like that. So there'll be a one-way system. People will be encouraged to go to the toilet prior to coming to the venue, and also anything like merchandise or drink or ice creams, an idea is to purchase it beforehand so you're sitting in your seats. When you're sat in your seats, you're then still at a safe distance, socially distanced from all the other people around you, and then at the end of the performance, ushers will then come and take it group by group to make sure that we're socially distanced leaving the venue. The other good news is that we've introduced and built some new ladies' toilets, so now our toilet capacity, especially upstairs in the circle, has increased from 2 to 6 toilets, which means that hopefully any possible queues will now be avoided. And it also means it gives people options and space. The new toilets have got a lot more room and a lot more space, and again they'll be cleaned regularly to try and make them as safe and secure as we can. So the news is we are going to stay open. We are struggling but surviving. Any help that people can feel they can make as far as a donation is concerned, on our website there's a click link to be able to go straight to a donation for a GoFundMe page. But we have put in place plans that we are going to remain open and we are going to remain viable and working, and we will survive and we will come out the far side of this pandemic.
If you want to help the Pavilion Theatre survive, go to their website where you can make a donation.
So there we go. That's the good news from Weymouth Pavilion. It's great to hear Phil being so positive. And I think when people do have a positive attitude like that, then it certainly really does help. And I would urge you to support the Pavilion as much as you can. We will, I'm sure, be going back to hear more about what's happening at the Pavilion, particularly as we come to Christmas panto season. Oh, no, we won't. Oh, it won't. Oh, yes, we will, of course. We have to get into panto, and it's wonderful and it's colourful. So we will, I'm sure, be telling you about the panto at the Pavilion before it starts in Christmas time. It's now that part of the programme when we celebrate birthdays, and we do have a birthday this week. So let's play my jingle and hope it works. So there we go. We have a birthday, and it was a birthday that happened in the week, and it is Kevin Port, Reverend Betty Port's husband. And I won't be embarrassing Kevin by saying how old he is, other than to say it's a significant birthday that he's had in the last week, and we wish him a very, very happy belated birthday, and a big thank you from the parish for all the support that he gives Reverend Betty as well. Don't forget, if you're celebrating a birthday or some other special celebration, do let us know so we can wish you a happy birthday or say congratulations on our weekly programme. You'll remember last week we mentioned the sponsored swim that MV Freedom were doing on last Sunday. And I was very pleased to be able to go along last Sunday afternoon. It was a lovely afternoon in the sun to Newton's Cove in Weymouth to see what was happening at the swim marathon. I'm going to show you some video shortly, but first of all I'm hoping to link up with Meredith Phillips from MV Freedom to ask her a bit about how the event went. Good evening, Meredith. Thank you very much for joining us this evening to talk about the MV Freedom sponsored swim that was last Sunday, and I was very pleased to be there on a lovely afternoon. I thought it'd be nice if we just had a follow-up after the event. So first of all, can you tell us, was it a success?
It was an absolute joy, especially as the idea was mooted by Dawn, and she thought she was just going to swim and have a couple of people, but Sheila and I, we just ran with it, and it was a great success.
So how many swimmers do you actually think you got in the end? I know when I certainly counted 30, 40 plus.
Yeah, we actually had 42 swimmers. We'd had to jump through hoops to get all the safety arranged, and Dirk, our chairman, who is a whiz, did the risk assessments and method statements. We have 42 who had sponsors and their helpers, and it really was such a successful, enjoyable day.
I'm sure I spotted one person going around at least twice. I don't know if I got that right or not.
Dawn was escorting the first guy who went off, who was blind, and then she was sent back to escort somebody else. So I didn't actually catch up with her whether or not she swam twice, but she could well have done.
I think she might have done. I'm sure I saw somebody going around twice. I noticed the one real good thing that I noticed, and somebody gets involved with events myself occasionally, you had a really good group of helpers who were all well organised and all in their fluorescent jackets and making sure everything was nice and safe. How many numbers of helpers did you have there? Were they all your regular helpers, or did you have extra people that came and helped on the day?
We had 14 of our regular helpers, and we also had Janet, bless her, who was on registration with a lovely lady called Barbara, who normally is in the pavilion. We had 7 men, 7 women, and we also had the co-op who sponsored all the food and the drink. So a big thank you to them, because they were great, and they were great help looking after the clothes as well. So we had people on bucket collections, we had organisers, people talking to the jet skis and the harbour authorities, and also the Coast Guard, and all sorts of different people that were involved.
Did you raise much money? That's the key thing. That was all about raising money for MV Freedom.
Our buckets surpassed us, really surpassed ourselves. But what was great was that we had 2 male swimmers, Brian from the Red Lion, and a guy called Mark Lewis, who is a really wonderful guy who helps people with disabilities anyway, and he sets up all sorts of things. But these 2 guys, they went into competition, and they had a bet to see who could raise the most. We still don't know. We know that Brian raised a phenomenal amount, which he put into our buckets. But Mark's is still ongoing because his sponsors are still coming in. And it kind of came from different directions, because we've got Just Giving, we've got Virgin Giving, and the buckets. So we are still waiting for sponsors to, be able to completely say. But it was beyond our wildest expectations.
Oh, that's good. Now, I know you're trying to raise a lot of money towards the new boat, which is coming soon, and it's got to be fitted out and everything. How much do you still need to raise that you hope that local people will support you with in the months ahead?
We always need something, but we are still after getting the life jackets, and also the iPads, so that they people in wheelchairs at the back can actually drive the boat from the rear. So it's going to include them. So we thought that we would actually do things like man overboard, where they can actually maneuver the boat under instruction, obviously, and other people can get involved. So all those kind of things we need to raise money for. And unfortunately, our two golf course quizzes have had to be cancelled because we're not allowed to take part. So that was our main event this year.
So what is the next event you've got planned? And I appreciate that might not actually be to next year now with all the restrictions, but is there something you're planning for, a big fundraising event?
Well, nearly all of our volunteers and nearly all of our swimmers came to us afterwards and said that they had enjoyed themselves so much they would like to make it, us to make it an annual event. So hopefully that will be an ongoing thing. And I mean, everything fell into place. It was just wonderful with the weather and everything else. But we're hoping that will be an ongoing thing. The only thing that we've got left this year, which we don't know if we're going to be able to do, is singing carols in the town centre the first Saturday in December. But with the singing, as you know, it's really, really difficult at the moment. We don't know if we'll be able to do that one.
Okay, Melody, well, thank you very much for joining us this evening. We're going to finish off your interview just by looking at some of the film from last Sunday afternoon, which was a lovely, warm, sunny afternoon. And I know all of those people there that I saw enjoyed the afternoon. And so all the best luck with MV Freedom. And do come back and tell us what you're up to in the future. There we go. That was the swim sponsor swim for MV Freedom last weekend, and what a truly wonderful setting Newton's Cove was that afternoon with the sun beaming down and the boats in the background. And I have to say it was a well-run event with lots of safety on the water, both the ride-on buggy things. It's amazing, I've just forgotten the name. Jet skis, that's it. And obviously the other lifeguards there on their board. So well organised, well done to MV Freedom. You remember that we mentioned a few weeks ago now that Weymouth Museum is reopening, and I wanted to remind you of that. The museum is run like many things these days by volunteers. It has lots of interesting artifacts, local history and local artifacts. And if you've not paid it a visit, maybe it's time to think about it if you're looking for something to do. It's open Thursdays to Saturdays, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. It's situated at the Brewers Quay site, and it's only £2 for adults and £1 for children, so it's not expensive at all. The museum has a website with lots of information on, and a very active Facebook group, which if you follow it, you will know often has lots of old photographs, videos, and information on. As summer is now coming to an end and the nights are closing in, I thought it'd be nice to share a recent video from Weymouth Museum that they have posted on their Facebook group of showing seaside fun in Weymouth, new and old. And just a warning, some of the old film in this video does flicker a little bit. There we go, some old pictures and old videos of Weymouth and some new. And I think the thing that struck me with that video was right at the start when we saw those old pictures of 19th century Weymouth and King Street with the view to the clock, and how really it hasn't changed much other than the fact that there's now cars on it where there were people walking up the road before. The buildings look much the same shape and the streetscape hasn't changed much at all. I always find it fascinating watching these old videos from Weymouth Museum, and if you haven't followed them on Facebook, I really do suggest, if you're on Facebook, you find their group, it's just Weymouth Museum, and follow them because there's always interesting stuff coming up. I'm going to return to something we touched on earlier in the programme, which is live streaming of church services. Many churches and priests throughout the country have been providing all sorts of different forms of services, reflections and social activities during the coronavirus lockdown, all making their own attempts in lots of different ways. and often things go wrong. And us in Wyke Regis have suffered from that ourselves. And some of you will remember we've had services when we tried to link up with people in the church and lost the feed halfway through. And then we've had to improvise and carry on in some way or form or other. I'm sure as well, people have been fluffing their words, family pets are walking in, all sorts of things, and of course the problems with the technology. I'm sure you'll all remember Dennis Norden, who had a TV programme that ran from 1977 to 2006 called It Will Be All Right on the Night, that basically featured outtakes and when things went wrong. Well, just to reassure you, it's not just the Parish of Wyke Regis that has had problems with its live streaming services and the events that we've tried to do during lockdown. And here is a short compilation of outtakes from other churches and other church groups that we're going to call It'll Be All Right on Sunday Morning.
Good morning, and
Come big spirit, make me laugh.
The Lord has gone up with a shout.
Testing, testing.
On that day, that many would come to know your healing, your transformative, and your powerful work and touch.
I've got crows in the background. Edit this bit off.
For the Lord your God is with you. I've got it wrong again.
It is. God is love. And so it kind of shows God's character when we do this. I might have a little visitor with me also. Judah, you go see Daddy please? Okay, I'm just talking on here. You go see Daddy? Sorry everyone, I've got a little visitor.
So we are coming to the end of our service on this Easter day. But children, how have you been doing on your scavenging hunt? Oh, look, we've got an additional member of the family who's come to join us. What is on your tray, I wonder?
Every Wednesday for the next few weeks we are planning something that you can...
As we record this service, Sonia will be speaking out the responses, many of which may be familiar to you.
So let us pray. Just in a moment's silence, quiet your hearts and recognise our own shortcomings and failures.
No, obviously not.
Stronger than strong, you're mightier than mighty, and louder than this song. Your love for me stretches farther than far.
I'm not afraid, I am not dismayed. Not fucking faith. Go on and walk it. Thank you very much, that was going quite well.
What a wonderful name it is, the name of Jesus.
Just stop.
Oh, that's the wrong way round.
There we go. Just to prove that it's not just the parish of Wyke Regis that struggles with the technology and its live streams. And I know certainly on many occasions, yes, we've had the technical problems, but we've had the pet problems as well. I can remember Alan's cat on a couple of occasions, Kira, deciding to join in when he's reading the prayers or reading one of the readings. And often I've heard Brother Ali's dogs, Patch and Bessie, barking in the background. So I think the thing is, and Brother Alistair said this a few weeks ago, and I think it was the service that the bishop came. Of course, none of these people, none of these priests, none of these lay ministers have been trained to do live streaming and broadcasting services. It wasn't on the curriculum at Vicar School, as he said. So they've all done really, really well in supporting our parish and all the other parishes across the country. So I'm sure if you get the opportunity to say thank you, it would be appreciated. And so finally tonight, as we come to the end of the programme, to remind you that our quiz is on at 7:30 this evening. Do pop along and join in. You don't have to be a quiz expert. You don't have to be a member of the church. It's there for anybody who wants to come along and join in the quiz for a bit of fun, something a bit different than watching TV on a Saturday evening. Just to remind you, our main service tomorrow is at 9:15 in All Saints Church, and you'll be very, very welcome to come and join us in church at something that will look almost normal, although unfortunately you will have to gel your hands, wear a face mask, and whilst we will have the organ playing and a socially distant small choir singing, unfortunately you won't be able to join in with the singing at the moment. If of course you are not able to join us in church because you're unwell or you feel uncomfortable, then you'll be most welcome to join us on the live stream. If the live stream fails, we will broadcast the recorded service at 6 o'clock in the evening tomorrow. Just to remind you, Tuesday, the evening service will be at 5 o'clock in All Saints Church, and on Wednesday morning there will be a said communion service as usual at 10:30. And of course, I plan to be back here with you next Saturday at 6 o'clock with Parish News. If you've got any stories, any events, any appeals, anything at all that you want me to share with the local community, do let me know during the week. The contact details are up on screen. Telephone 01305 778169 or email gary@parishofwykeregis.org.uk or contact me through the church Facebook group or through my own Facebook profile. So until next Saturday at 6 o'clock, it's good night from me.